The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
Generally, they're white farmers, and they're fleeing South Africa, and it's a very sad thing to see.
A tense meeting at the White House. What led to the on-camera disagreement between the presidents in the Oval Office, and airport upgrades. What the heads of the leading airlines are telling Congress about the aging National Air Traffic Control System. And then Pope Leo XIV makes his first public appearance, what the pontiff says is the focus of the new papacy. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Dee Dee Gatton, and we are glad you are here with us. Republican lawmakers back at the Capitol after leaving the White House a short while ago as they look to come to an agreement with President Donald Trump on their one big, beautiful budget bill. All day long, the House Rules Committee has been voting on amendments and changes to the bill before sending it to the House floor. But in order to pass the House, all but 3 Republicans need to support it. And those votes are not there yet, as the House Freedom Caucus is opposing the bill as is.
The White House offered a proposal late last night that I think fulfills the other 2 parts of what the president talked about. And there's broad agreement in the House Freedom Caucus that if that's included in the package, I think this package is en route to get passed. I don't think it can be done today.
So as far as the timeline goes, Speaker Mike Johnson says he wants the bill passed before Memorial Day. The House is set to adjourn for recess tomorrow. He's looking at possibly a late night vote tonight into tomorrow morning if it all comes together. And it was a sad day in the House as the members lost a colleague. Virginia Congressman Jerry Connelly died peacefully at his home this morning, surrounded by his family after battling esophagus cancer. And the flowers were placed at his usual seat during a House hearing this afternoon. The congressman recently stepped down as ranking member of the Oversight Committee due to the cancer returning. He was 75 years old. At the White House today, President Donald Trump also hosted the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa. The open press portion of the meeting started off well, but became more tense when President Trump brought up the subject of white farmers being targeted and killed. Ramaphosa, joined by major winning golfers, urged President Trump to listen to their stories and their perspective.
I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these 3 gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. He would not be with me.
These are articles over the last few days. Death of people. Death, 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 horrible death.
At one point, Trump had his aides play a short documentary on the issue. Experts in South Africa say there is no evidence of whites being targeted, though they note the country suffers from a high crime rate. Trump has cut all U.S. assistance to South Africa, and last week, dozens of white South African farmers were welcomed to the U.S. as refugees. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says the Department of Defense has accepted the Boeing 747 jet from Qatar for President Trump to use as Air Force One. A Pentagon spokesperson says the department will begin work to ensure the jet has proper security measures for presidential use. Pentagon officials say the plane was accepted in accordance with all federal rules and regulations. Trump has defended the gift of the plane from Qatar as a way to save tax dollars. Critics say it's an improper gift. And the Department of Homeland Security is pushing back against the latest judicial ruling that seeks to return 2 people deported to South Sudan. At an emergency hearing last night, District Judge Brian Murphy said the administration violated a court order deporting the individuals and must bring them back into the country. The department says they acted lawfully, and this is an overreach by the judicial branch.
While we are fully compliant with the law and court orders, it is absolutely absurd for a district judge to try to dictate the foreign policy and national security of the United States of America.
As the country waits for the Supreme Court to rule on President Donald Trump's executive order that would end birthright citizenship for non-legal residents, Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn has introduced a bill that would end birthright tourism. That's where pregnant foreigners fly into the U.S. before their delivery dates to have their babies so their children can be granted U.S. citizenship.
Most people don't realize that this is quite an industry, and these brokers that are pushing birthright tourism work with women who are expecting babies. Primarily, this is Russia and China. So then that child can come back, and within 20 years, they are able to start migrating their family here as the child comes here for college and for work. Our citizenship isn't for sale.
According to the senator, the birthright tourism industry accounts for more than 33,000 births in the U.S. per year. Congresswoman LaMonica McIver released on her own recognizance after she appeared in court to face felony assault charges. Court documents say she struck an ICE officer with her forearm during a protest outside an immigration detention center earlier this month. This video capturing the scuffle here behind me. Prosecutors saying McIver tried to stop the arrest of the mayor of Newark and pushed into and grabbed federal agents. The Congresswoman says the charges are political and mischaracterize and distort her actions, and the escalation was caused by the officers. At a hearing today, lawmakers discussed the importance of ICE detention centers and also took a closer look at the clash outside that New Jersey facility. The National News Desk, Jeff Harris reports.
Dueling opinions from opposing parties took center stage at Tuesday's House Judiciary hearing. Lawmakers and witnesses trading blows while comparing Biden and Trump's immigration policies and the new charges filed against McIver. During Tuesday's hearing on threats to ICE operations, both parties lobbying attacks about current immigration laws and policies.
January 20th, 2021, Joe Biden made 3 decisions that created this mess in our country.
The Republicans have called today's hearing for one purpose: to help an administration that's already rooted in lawlessness and corruption execute their dangerous assault on American democracy.
Committee members quickly turning to the Delaney Hall Detention Center in New Jersey. Charges officially filed against Democratic Representative LaMonica McIver for allegedly assaulting ICE agents on May 9th.
Who stormed into the facility without clearance, without following protocol, and physically disrupted law enforcement operations.
For the Department of Justice to charge McIver with assault is an outrage against the Constitution.
Lawmakers also hearing testimony from 4 witnesses, including former DHS senior law enforcement Charles Marino, telling lawmakers the border policies under the Biden administration made the U.S. less safe.
By allowing very dangerous criminals and national security threats to enter the country.
But former ICE Chief of Staff Jason Hauser disagreeing, testifying the current administration is acting recklessly, saying it's not enforcement, it's theater.
Strength comes from strategy, not rounding up the wrong people for the wrong reasons.
Now, McIver has already condemned the federal charges against her as political intimidation, telling reporters while leaving a Democratic caucus meeting she is looking forward to her day in court. I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
5 escaped inmates remain at large in New Orleans following a jailbreak last week. Louisiana State Police say 19-year-old Corey Boyd was taken into custody yesterday, the 5th since Friday. Boyd was originally in jail on several charges, including second-degree murder and threatening a public official. He'll be transported to a secure state facility with the other 4 captured inmates. Boyd, who turns 20 on May 26, was among the 10 inmates who escaped from jail last Friday. Also, the high-profile sex trafficking case of Sean Diddy Combs in its 8th day today. Special Agent Gerard Gannon returned to the stand to detail more about the home raid of the music mogul. The prosecution used the evidence he provided to give visual representation to the jury of their allegations of physical and sexual violence. The National News Desk will have more on today's testimony later tonight at 10. The heads of 9 major U.S. airlines are urging Congress to upgrade the nation's air traffic control system and to do so now. In a letter to congressional leaders, the airline CEOs say staffing shortages and inefficient operations are negatively impacting safety. The CEOs do praise Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy's plan to overhaul the system, but the plan needs billions of dollars. Meantime, one of the worst airports hit by air traffic control problems, the Newark Liberty International Airport. It's cutting flights in and out of the airport by 25%. The Federal Aviation Administration issued the order just yesterday. The FAA says the move is to lessen inconvenience for travelers due to these challenges. Former President Biden's team is standing by their assertion that the Bidens didn't know about the prostate cancer diagnosis until last week. This is questions about Biden's recent health, both physically and cognitively, continue to come up. Now, one of the authors of a book about the former president is addressing why their damaging report didn't happen in real time. National correspondent Matt Gelka reports from Washington.
Former President Joe Biden didn't have a prostate cancer diagnosis prior to last week, according to his spokesman. The questions over how a world leader and his doctors didn't know about an aggressive form of the cancer until it hit stage 4 are swirling. The spokesman said Biden's last screening was in 2014, when the president would have been 71 or 72, with guidelines recommending against automatically screening men over the age of 70 for the disease. Congressman Greg Murphy, a urologist, says those guidelines can be patient-specific.
Why he had not gotten a PSA in a decade really is beyond me. Is it that the fact the doctor didn't recommend it, or Biden didn't accept it, or what? When did he get the biopsy, I think, is critical.
The diagnosis comes as fallout is still ongoing from a damaging book from CNN anchor Jake Tapper and Axios reporter Alex Thompson. The book documents a cover-up of Biden's decreasing mental acuity during his time in office. The reporting on the former president's mental fitness not being revealed in detail until now is also getting picked apart from both the left and the right.
The point is, forgetting about the fact how weird it is that the news is selling you a book about news they should have told you was news a year ago for free.
You've been in Washington 30 years, Jake. You guys, you and CNN have White House connections, but there was no effort, none, to get to the bottom of this. And now for you guys to write this.
Tapper also admitted he would have covered things differently.
This was a deterioration. This was a progression. And look, knowing what I know now, obviously, I feel tremendous humility about my coverage.
Wisconsin Republican Senator Ron Johnson told Axios on Wednesday that he's launching an investigation into how the White House handled Biden's health. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Coming up, the next round of talks with Iran about ending their nuclear program seem to be on for this week. But does that mean that a military option is off the table? We'll find out. Why didn't public health officials sound the alarm bells about mounting evidence of heart inflammation in young men who took the COVID vaccine? And then later turning tragedy into a cause. How one state is using the death of a federal agent to upgrade the penal code. The fifth round of nuclear talks between the United States and Iran will be held in Rome on Friday. That is according to the foreign minister of Oman. But this has not been confirmed by the U.S. or by Tehran. There has been an impasse over recently enrichment of uranium. President Trump says Iran can't be allowed to enrich uranium, while the Ayatollah says Iran won't stop their enrichment program. National correspondent Kelly Gaskins joins us as the U.S. has new intelligence suggesting Israel might strike Iran's nuclear facilities.
While the United States and Israel are close allies,
Bibi, I want to say it's an honor to have you with us.
They differ on a key, delicate foreign policy issue: how to handle Iran's nuclear ambitions.
I think we're in a pivotal moment, an important moment in terms of the Iranian-U.S.-Israel relations.
On Wednesday, CNN reporting U.S. officials believe Israel is planning to attack Iran's nuclear sites. Such an attack would go against President Trump's commitment to finding a diplomatic solution.
I don't like permanent enemies. I want to make a deal with Iran.
The U.S. and Iran are in direct talks. Last Friday, Trump confirmed the U.S. had given Iran a nuclear deal proposal and encouraged Iran to accept the deal. Earlier this month, we spoke with Danny Citronowitz, an expert on Iran with the Institute for National Security Studies, an independent think tank based at Tel Aviv University.
For the U.S., the most important thing is not allowing Iran to have a nuclear weapon. For Israel, the most important thing is toppling the regime. So there are different views.
In your opinion, how strong is Iran right now?
It's grown weaker, but still Iran is strong in a way that it has an arsenal of thousands of missiles, long range and short range.
Iran is at its weakest point in decades after Israel bombed their missile production facilities and air defenses, along with the decimation of Iran's proxies like Hezbollah. This could be an incentive for Israel to strike now. This comes as the U.S.-Iran talks are hitting a snag over uranium, a key part of nuclear power. On Wednesday, Iran's top diplomat insisted they will never stop enriching uranium. Trump has made it clear, if diplomatic talks fail, airstrikes could be on the table. Meanwhile, President Trump moving forward with his Golden Dome project, an aerial defense system similar to Israel's Iron Dome. Trump selecting a design and appointing Space Force General Michael Gutlein to lead the project. It's expected to cost $175 billion and be completed before Trump leaves office. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting from the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Pope Leo XIV held his first general audience with the public today. He began by greeting and blessing members of the crowd at St. Peter's Square there. In his message, the Pope appealed for Israel to allow humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip, asking for a, quote, end to the hostilities. Leo also continued Pope Francis's focus on hope, with Pope Francis set as the theme for this year. An audience will be held weekly, giving visitors a chance to see the Pope and receive a blessing. Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo faces a criminal investigation following a referral from congressional Republicans. The Department of Justice opened an investigation into Cuomo over his COVID-19 testimony. Congressional Republicans accused the former governor of lying about his administration's handling of the pandemic. A spokesperson for Cuomo said his team has not received any information about the investigation. The spokesperson added Cuomo testified truthfully. New York Mayor Eric Adams says he will not weigh in on the investigation of his political rival.
I'm not going to do to him what others did to me. I'm going to allow the investigation to take its course. I'm focusing on revitalizing Fifth Avenue and opening up this amazing city and continue to put wins on the board for a city that I love.
An explosive new report from the Senate Homeland Security Committee accuses the federal government of failing to warn the American people and the world about potential side effects from the COVID-19 mRNA vaccine. National correspondent Christine Frizzell sat down with one of the doctors who testified on Capitol Hill today and has this report.
Literally, the job of the FDA, the job of the CDC, is to actually regulate our products and inform practitioners and people about the dangers that they might see as soon as they see them.
It was a job Dr. Jordan Vaughn says was not done, sounding alarm bells to lawmakers on Capitol Hill about a decision by public health officials in 2021 to not use what's known as a Health Alert Network message, or HAN, when increased risks from the COVID-19 vaccine became more clear.
That health alert notice would have told physicians, hey, be on the lookout for this because this is happening.
What was happening is the focus of an investigation by a Senate Homeland Security subcommittee, which details in a brand new report how federal health agencies downplayed risks from the COVID-19 vaccine and failed to warn the American people, accusing the Biden administration of downplaying and delaying warning the public about the risks of myocarditis associated with the mRNA COVID-19 vaccine. Cases of this inflammation of the heart muscle became especially prevalent in young men, aged 12 to 39 years old, according to the American Heart Association. The highest risk following the second dose of both the Pfizer and Moderna mRNA vaccines.
When we're talking about children or young men that have myocarditis, once cardiac muscle is destroyed, you're in for a long, hard life because you're not going to get new cardiac muscle.
Democrats on the committee do not support claims that public health officials knowingly kept information hidden from the public.
As we talk about the side effects of COVID vaccines, I think we need to be clear about the most important fact for all Americans. COVID-19 vaccines have saved millions and millions of lives.
This report released just one day after the new FDA commissioner changed the rules for COVID-19 vaccine booster shots, limiting access only to those over 65 years old or with underlying health conditions. I'm Christine Frizzell for the National News Desk.
Coming up, as people prepare for Memorial Day gatherings and possible family bonfires, the warnings about fire safety, about wildfire risks and reducing them. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America, and we start in Cincinnati, Ohio, where lawmakers are using the tragic death of an officer to inspire new laws to protect law enforcement.
It isn't just a tragic death, it's a tragic death of somebody who gave their life in service of the people of Hamilton County. So look, this inspired me to put together this bill.
The Larry Henderson Act would increase the mandatory minimum prison sentence to 20 years for anyone convicted of assaulting a federal officer.
I had the privilege of going to the funeral, saw the incredible show of support from his fellow law enforcement officers, heard over and over again that of all the people for this to happen to, Larry Henderson was just a good man.
It would also make it a federal crime, moving the case into a federal court.
Put it in the federal court system to make certain that we absolutely make it clear that this is a different category crime, that if you were to harm a law enforcement officer, you would face the severest consequences possible.
City Council has a roadmap to go after bad actor smoke shops. We don't understand why they're following this bad solution, because it's not going to achieve the policy goal that they want.
The Smoke Shop Association has now filed a lawsuit against the city of Fresno over the recently passed smoke shop ordinance. One of the lawsuit's main claims is that the city capped the number of smoke shops at 49, even though more than 80 are already legally operating. The ordinance also imposes strict rules on smoke shops that don't apply to other tobacco retailers, like grocery stores or gas stations.
33 smoke shops are going to be put out of business by this ordinance, regardless of how well they run their smoke shop. That's not targeted at bad actors like the city says.
The lawsuit argues it's unfair that only a small group of tobacco sellers' smoke shops are being targeted while the majority are exempt.
As people drive north, they'll probably see scattered smoky signs throughout the area. That indicates fire danger, says burning permits are required. Those are a good first step to kind of just see what those conditions are out there.
It's already been an active fire season, even by spring standards. Spring is peak season for fires in Wisconsin, but this year there have been about 300 more fires than usual through this time of year, and more than twice the number of fires bigger than 5 acres. There were even 6 more fires just reported by Tuesday afternoon alone. Even with Tuesday's rain, it might take a bit for fire danger in the sandy soil Northwoods to abate.
That green up really hasn't started to fully peak yet, so conditions are still relatively dry.
Coming up, the play of the offseason, what the NFL has decided to do about the controversial tush push. We'll be right back. NFL's controversial tush push lives on. At the NFL owners meeting in Minneapolis, a ban of the quarterback sneak play mastered by the Philadelphia Eagles did not receive enough votes to pass. The Green Bay Packers introduced the ban, arguing the play isn't a football move and is more like a rugby play. Also at the meeting today, the proposal to change playoff seeding was withdrawn, keeping division winners as home teams, even if they have worse records than a wild card winner. That's going to do it for us for this edition of the National News Desk. We invite you to join us again this evening as we give you the latest on that House budget bill that's still being debated in the House Rules Committee right now. I'm Didi Gatton. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tonight at 10.